mille tahkunda tõuda eirvas palus min Peetras. Võin äärepelis tõuda eir. Mas mille hägipäin lennas ja taskavalt tõudas nurkast ajada meie pärast tihti.
Hi everyone, Bores, Yegihto, Colette Baudemodeika. I wanted to start with this video to show you what Pailo-Sápmi is and what the case is and how myself and a lot of other Sami artists work to gain attention on this very, very complicated and destructive situation that we are living in. Pailo-Sápmi is my own artwork that you saw with the reindeer heads, and it is also a collective artistic movement, I would say, where a lot of artists raise their voice to speak several perspectives on this complicated case. This movie, for instance, is made by Mailis Eira and Matti Aikio. They are artists and filmmakers who are documenting both my brother's trial and the artistic work around the trial. And the music that you heard is actually made by Máret Eira, and it's a title song for Pailo-Sápmi. So by showing this short video, I wanted to give you some kind of experience on how we gather to the trials for every time. We have had 2 trials until now. Maybe I should start explaining shortly what the case is based on. My brother went to trial against the Norwegian government because they have set a collective punishment upon the reindeer herders in Finnmark, north of Norway. There's no consideration of how many reindeers each individual herder has. So in his case, as in many other cases of the smallest reindeer herders, our youth, among them our future and recruitment for Sami reindeer herding, are nearly pressured to bankruptcy, or in my brother's case, he would be bankrupt if he would follow these state regulations and slaughter his herd to 75 reindeers. The other consequence of being forced to bankruptcy is also that him or others in his case are forced to leave their traditional way of life, and by that also losing all inherited cultural rights that nowadays are bound to this certificate that the government has created for Sami reindeer herders. So I think I want to show you a picture, this one, because the claim is that the reindeers are destroying the land, the tundra. So that's why they are forcefully slaughtering our herds to rescue us. And there was a good quote earlier today. Someone said, "It's always about the land," and it is. I think we're getting closer to the truth by looking at this map. I found this in, I think, 2012. I stumbled upon this map, and these are actually mineral findings in our area. This is our reindeer herding area north of Norway. And as you can see here, if this state strategy of mining would happen, there would be no room left for traditional Sami reindeer herding. So, so I think that explains a little bit of the background for the Pailo Sápmi art project, and also the engagement of the Sami artists and the Sami community, because well, we claim this is the truth behind slaughtering our herds, even though the scientific research for claiming that we are destroying the tundra is really questionable. They are at the same time expropriating this land that they claim to be protecting for the intended industries, mining, for instance. So power lines, all kinds of huge industrial establishments are already going on. Since I have so little time, I'm going to go to the next image. By showing this image, I want to pay my respects to this land, ancestors and the spirit of this land. It's with me in my work, because when I started working with my heads, I found this image online. And the striking thing was the structural similarity behind the political strategies. Because if you eliminate what people live out of, you get rid of the people, you get access to the land. And the model of the forced reduction as a collective punishment back home in Sápmi is doing that exact thing to our community by strangling the recruitment to our culture. So Pailo Sápmi started out as a personal cry for attention and help, because nothing was being discussed around what was happening. And it's growing. More and more artists, I invite artists with relevant projects or voices to come along so we can have a broader discussion about systems, about how colonialization is not in the history. It has just changed shape. It has now a very sophisticated and elegant surface, so that even in Norway, which is known to be the most democratic and fair country in the world, these very harsh and very unfair processes are happening as we speak. And going back to the trials, you saw footage from both trials. We have won the case twice. In both cases, the Norwegian government has appealed. So we are now preparing to the Supreme Court trial in Oslo. And I think my time ended, so I'm going to have to leave with that.
Thank you, Máret. I'm going to speak as an artist to an artist. You did a wonderful job coming from Norway here, providing a lot of context. You spoke about the land, and Wanda Nannebush, who spoke earlier, that it's always about the land. And one difficult thing about coming from one land to another is you have to communicate your context to this new place. But when you do that, you run out of time about talking about your own work. So I wanted to ask you about that. We saw some images of your artwork, and I'm wondering if you'd like to speak about some of these aesthetic considerations that you didn't get a chance to speak about.
Wow, open question. I could stand here for hours. But,
well, you spoke about the hole in
yeah.
the skulls earlier.
Yes, in the forehead.
Okay, in the forehead.
That's quite essential. These heads in my installations, for the first trial, I had raw heads with, all the brain head intact. After the trial, I left them outdoors to kind of, let nature do the process, let the process go on. And then I found out that all of a sudden a new layer appeared in the story and in the heads. All of a sudden you could see the bullet hole in the forehead of all of these skulls or the heads. And it was really powerful for me because it was a sign of another abuse, I would say, because that's not our way of killing our reindeers. We would never shoot them in the forehead because indigenous thinking doesn't allow a use of resources in that manner. So we use all of the head, including the skin in the forehead, the tongue, the eyes. We eat everything. But in this systemized slaughtering, it all goes to waste. So this is basically waste. So from me, it's also, a commentary on those kind of issues. And also just seeing a bullet hole in 400 skulls with the close relationship that we have to our animals, it's something, I would say.
Thank you, Máret.
Thank you.